Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. I decided to take a break from um, our lesson study that we're going on right now. I actually do a devotional by myself every morning, and right now the one that I'm working on is in the book of James. So I figured that I would share this one with you guys today. I know that it's really hectic, with I'm speaking directly to my youth students here, but I know it's hard, still trying to go through schoolwork and get things done around the house that your parents or your grandparents, anybody that asking you to do right now. I know it's hard. Okay. I right now I'm trying to keep the house in order, take care of the baby, and I still have a full-time job going on right now while all of this stuff is going on. But I just wanted to give y'all something to meditate on this week, and I thought that this was like the perfect thing to bring to light this week for you guys' lesson. So listen up, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay, it's a lot of reading straight from this book because this is how I read it, but that's just how it's going to be this week. Okay, so this specific day that I'm choosing to share with you guys, it's on James 4:13 through 17. So those four verses, I told you guys I can never talk. Like, it doesn't matter. And I just woke up a few minutes ago, so there's that too. So James 4:13 through 17 say, "Now listen, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast and brag. All such boasting is evil. Anyone then who knows the good he ought to do and doesn't do it sins." Okay? So this is my reading part, okay? The book of James confronts us, okay? It reminds us that we need the Lord. We need him because he's strong and we are weak. We need him because he's holy and we are sinful. We need him because he's sovereign and we are not. We like to think that we are in control of our lives, but there's freedom in realizing that we're not. There's freedom in humility and surrender. And this is exactly what James is teaching us in this passage. In this passage, we think through what it means to have humility before a sovereign God. James speaks to all of us in these verses as he reminds us of our tendency to make plans and think we're in control. We're being warned against a spirit of arrogance. James reminds us that we think of ourselves too highly. We do not have the power to control tomorrow or even today, but we know the one who does. James teaches us that we must not be presumptuous. We must recognize that we cannot take even one breath without the Lord. A right understanding of God and a right understanding of ourselves will better help us understand the humility that we must have before the Lord. John Calvin famously said, "Man never attains to true self-knowledge until he has previously contemplated the face of God and come down after such contemplation to look into himself." A correct view of self can only be found when we have a correct view of God. As we see him as our gracious sovereign, we begin to understand our desperate need of him. In his mercy, God allows us to feel our need for him, or of him. Sorry guys, I'm sniffling this morning. I can't breathe. Not corona, not breathe, but sinuses, not breathe. So James' words here do not forbid us from making plans, okay? He does say make plans. It's okay. These verses are not an excuse for inaction, but a call to humility. It's a call to know that every breath we take is by his grace. Every plan we make is subject to his sovereign plan. This reminder comes after many commands in this short book to action and obedience, and I really encourage you guys to read the book of James. It is so good. We are reminded that we must do what God calls us to do, but we must do it in view of who God is, meaning we shouldn't do it for the wrong reasons. James is not even demanding that we use the "if the Lord wills" phrase every time we speak our plans. Instead, he's seeking to imprint humility on our hearts. It is common in our time for people to spend endless time thinking about what God's will is for our lives. But these verses do not push us to a life of endlessly wondering what God's will is for us. In fact, the words in verse 17 remind us, remind us that in many ways we already know what the will of God is for our lives. We do not know what will happen tomorrow, but there are some things we do know, and they're all in the Bible. We know that it is God's will for us to be holy and sanctified. We know that it's God's will for us to love His word and love our neighbors. We know that it's God's will for us to care for the outcast and orphans. We know that it's God's will for us to serve the church. So while James has spent much of the book warning us of sins and commission, and like I said, you guys, read this book. I encourage you. It's very easy to understand. He is really straightforward. But now he's warning us against sins of omission. We know what God's called us to do and how He's called us to live. He tells us in the Bible. And now we're responsible to live it out by His grace. You don't have to keep it all together. Take a big sigh of relief. Our God is the one who holds all things together, and we can serve Him and trust Him with our hours, days, and years. There's great freedom in realizing that though we work and plan and seek to live our lives for the glory of God, we will do it all under His sovereign care. So, before I turn the video off, I'm going to leave you guys with these questions, okay? And me and my youth group, we're going to discuss these questions, okay? So make sure you write them down. This video is up. You can pause it, write them down, and we'll talk about it later this week, okay? First question: what are some things in your life that you're tempted to think you are in control of? Second question: how does understanding that you are powerless without Christ bring freedom? And the last question: how should this passage change the way that we think and plan for the future? All right, guys, that's all for this week. I really hope you enjoyed this. Next week, we'll be back on our train of promises, and I will see you then. Bye.